Hi, I'm Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I'd like to welcome you to our final Yoga for All class, part of AARP's Missouri's Moving It Fitness Series. And 6 weeks to me, and Tyler mentioned it earlier, seems just a little bit too short. But good news is our next round of classes with Tyler will be 8 weeks long. So next up is strength and balance conditioning. And that class is going to have some interval and repetition work. And Tyler will talk about that a little bit after class to let you know what's coming. And then after strength and balance conditioning will be a little bit more yoga, but it'll be a yoga conditioning class. Like this class, those classes are suitable for many levels of fitness. And for this class, you should have received some cautions and guidelines in the reminder that you received. So please, please, please adhere to those guidelines. And if you have any concerns, check with your doctor before participating in this or any other AARP fitness offering. AARP Missouri also offers classes called Forever Fit and Zumba Light, and we have links to past programs that we've done like Tai Chi that you can participate in from the recordings, and all that programming created with people 50 plus in mind and good for anyone at any age. And you can learn more about that at aarp.org/movingit. You'll also find information at aarp.org/movingit about our new sweepstakes for a Fitbit Versa 3 and other prizes. So we draw for prizes monthly, and then at the end of a series of sessions, we draw for the Fitbit Versa. So that's coming up in May. So if you haven't signed up, please make sure that you do that today. Even if you're not in this class anymore because this class has ended, you can still be eligible. So please sign up for that. AARP realizes that our fitness series like Yoga for All is a great option for anyone who maybe can't attend a traditional fitness class, like a caregiver or somebody staying home to reduce their risk during the pandemic. We also have other resources for caregivers, up-to-date COVID-19 information, and tech information on our website at aarp.org/near-you. Now, if this is your first time, I'm going to bet not, but got to say it, with an AARP fitness class, make sure that your Zoom is set up properly. First thing that you should do is make sure that you pin Tyler, our instructor. So Tyler will stay on your screen throughout the class if you pin her, and there she's waving at you. You can pin her by going to her little Hollywood square where she's waving and click on the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner of her square. That will give you a drop-down menu that gives you an option to pin her. If you click pin, she will be on your screen the entire time, and that makes it easier for you to follow the moves. One more thing, and I try to do this for you, but some of you are good about doing it. Please, please, please make sure that you are on mute until the class ends, and then Tyler will take questions and talk about our next classes and things like that. All right, let's get started with Yoga for All. Again, our instructor is Tyler Furguson from Caliente Fitness. Tyler, take it away.
Thank you, Diane. Good morning, everyone. We're going to begin our grounding either seated or on our back. So it's yogi's choice, our final week. You get to choose the posture that suits you, that speaks best and resonates you with your grounding work. That's just the preparation. Grounding is our preparation for class, and we're going to practice a little bit of awareness.
You can break it out into multiple lines. So it could be.
I apologize.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
All right. I was muted. Okay, guys, we're going to take whatever seat is comfortable for you. You can either be on your back for this opening grounding work, or you can be on your seat. Whatever way resonates best with you to begin to settle in. Check your mutes, everyone. Make sure that you're on mute. There you go. We got it. If you're in a seat, remember these blocks, if you brought your props in, they can feel nice under the knees. Otherwise, you can be on your back. Knees can be bent, feet on the ground. Taking your seat, arriving, beginning your opening grounding practice. Let's soften the eye gaze or even close your eyes and begin to draw your awareness inside. Noticing your breath. Noticing your inhale and your exhale. Working to inhale and exhale through the nose. And not trying so hard right now to manipulate it in any way. Just let the breath be. Perhaps you can invite in a mantra. I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. Continue becoming aware of the breath. That mantra just allows you to be present in the moment and helps you not shift forward into what's next or shift backwards into what you left behind. Just being present now. You can use your senses to tap a little bit deeper into the present moment. Take a moment to notice all of the body parts that are making contact with the surface that you're either sitting or lying down on. Notice the warmth, the texture of the surface that your body parts are touching. Notice the body parts that aren't touching the floor, but they're touching the rest of your body or somewhere else on your body. Breathing in and breathing out. And then take your hyper awareness and focus away from the points where your body are touching the ground and slide away to that point where there's parts of the body not touching the ground. So that negative space. And then maybe drifting back, feeling the areas of the body that are touching the ground. Opening up and becoming more aware of the areas that are floating in space and not touching the ground. Notice the sounds around you and the space that you're practicing in. Maybe it's cars in the road outside or people in the building or house that you're in. Don't let all of that residual noise and sound be a part of your experience and a part of your awareness of now. Noticing the smells of the room or the temperature. Allowing yourself to be present and right here, right now, for the next 40 minutes for your self-care and wellness practice. If your mind starts to drift during your practice, which is not uncommon, just go right back to your breath. Breath in and breath out. Begin to open your eyes, lift your eye gaze up, and we'll make our way into tabletop position. So if you're seated, coming to hands and knees, and if you're on your back, rolling over to your side and pressing yourself up and making your way to hands and knees. Hopefully, you have your blocks in class or your soup cans or your props, because I'll cue those today. It's not completely necessary, but if you like using them, I'll cue it. Let's come to our tabletop position. Look down and make sure the knees are falling under the hips. Sometimes we have a tendency to narrow our base of support here. So let your knees fall under the hips. And spread your fingers nice and wide. Feel this, or look at the space between each finger, pressing the fingertips into the ground. Look at the creases of your elbows. See if you can rotate those creases forward a little bit. Pack the shoulders down the back. Round your spine up to the sky. Take your eye gaze down to your knees or your belly. Tuck your tail. This is cat pose. Moving out of cat pose, drop your belly, your rib cage down to the floor. Start to lift the eye gaze. Lift the tail. You can bend the elbows a little bit here. Here's your cow pose. Move back into your cat pose, but try not to go to the very, very edge of your pose. Just stop short of the extreme edge of your pose, and then the same moving into your cow. Try not to go to your deepest cow. Stop right before your edge. And then let's add the breath. Exhale, round into your cat. Inhale, your inhale. You don't have to stay with me. Inhale, drop into your cow. So that's really important. Even though I'm cueing your breath, I'm just cueing the action to take on the breath, but I don't want you to change your breath to match mine. And if you inhale one direction and exhale the other, it doesn't matter. Just make sure you're moving with your breath, finding these gentle movements in the spine. We want to feel the spine articulate as it moves from flexion into extension. Now come to neutral in the spine. So your back is feeling a little flat. Slide your shoulders down your back and send your hips back into child's pose. For some of us, child's pose doesn't feel great, so you have a couple options. You can maybe put a rolled up blanket between your knees. Your knees don't love it. Or if you really want to be in child's pose, this is child's pose. So you can look at the screen. Look, see, it's the same thing. I'm just upside down in child's pose. Otherwise, I'm going to cue it from your prone or front position. Big toes together, knees wide. Walk your fingertips out in front and let your forehead rest on the ground, and then slide your elbows down to your knees. Spread your fingers wide. Try to cultivate a sense of relaxation here. And then just notice the breath from this perspective. Notice how your rib cages expand on the inhale. Maybe you can even feel the rib cage expand into the inner thigh. On your next inhale, maybe notice how your back ribs expand up into the sky. Press your fingertips into the mat. Press the tops of the toes into your mat. Pull yourself back up into your tabletop shape. Bring your right foot outside your right hand. So if it takes you a moment to get your foot there, that's fine. But let's try to get that foot there. So the knee is over the ankle. Activating our core, you're going to press down through the top of the back foot to engage the back glute. That's part of your core. So remember that your glute is part of your core activation. Good. Now, press into the top of that foot, draw your belly in, and rise up into your proposal pose, shoulders over hips. Let's bring our tail into neutral, or our pelvis. So as we bring it into neutral, remember the way that we find our neutral is you put your hands on your pelvis, and if the fingertips point straight down, you're in neutral. If your fingertips are pointed back, you're out of neutral. All right? So finding your neutral in your pelvis. Do this for me. Push, take your fist, put it on the outside of your knee, and push your knee against your fist. Notice the muscles that come on in your leg. Pause. Take your fist and put it on the inside of your knee, and then push your fist into your knee and your knee into the fist, and find your resistance there. So notice those muscles that come out in the leg. Can you maintain that activation in this leg while you press into the back leg? Pelvis is in neutral, and then take the arm of the leg that's back up, and we'll begin to open up the front of the hip here. So if you gently squeeze the glute, you'll notice that it'll release and allow the front of the hip to open. Bring your hands into prayer. Interlace your fingers except for your pointer fingers. This move is called gunslinger. So I'm going to press my fingers forward, round my upper back, drop my chin, but keep my eye gaze right at my thumbs. You'll notice you're stretching out the thoracic spine. The shoulders are moving, the shoulder blades are moving away. That's protraction. Pull the shoulders away from the ears. Notice how hard you have to work in the lower body to maintain this. Separate the hands, open up, and find chest expansion. Full tension in the arms. Don't leak power in the elbows or the wrists. Lift your heart. Press through that back leg. Press through that back glute. Inhale here. Exhale, hands come together. Shooting around, gunslinger. Looking at your thumbs, but opening up your back ribs to the back of the room. You might notice your front quad is really working right now. Open up, find your chest expansion. Exhale, bring your hands back to prayer. Hinge your hips, bring your chest down to your thigh. Hands go down to the ground, and then right foot comes back. Open up your knees, push your hips back. Just take a little breath or two just to stretch from that work. I like to wiggle my hips a little bit when I'm down in child's pose. You can do that. Fingertips into the ground, pull yourself back up into your tabletop. We'll find that whole series on the other side. So left foot is going to come to the outside of the left hand. Pause here. Find activation in the back foot to turn on back glute. That's part of your core. Pressing it down, push and rise up into your tabletop position. Into your proposal pose position. Hands go on the hips. Find neutral in your pelvis. This foot can come in a little bit. And then test. Can you push against your hand here? Can you push against your hand here? Feeling those muscles fire up in the front leg. The leg that's back, bring that arm up. We're starting to open up the front of the hip. You also might notice if you're pitched and rounded in the spine, you're not going to get as much sensation as you lift and lengthen through the spine. Keep squeezing that back glute on. Make sure you're breathing into this sensation. And then bring your hands together. See if you can take the opposite weave. So whatever is natural for your hands, see if you can go opposite of that. And then whatever cross is natural for your thumbs, go opposite on that. Pointer fingers forward, gunslinger, Push, push, push the fingertips away, but pull the shoulders out of the ears as you do that. So the chin is slightly tucked, but you're still looking at your thumb. So that's good crown to coccyx alignment there. Keep breathing. Separate the hands. Open the chest for chest expansion. Now you want the elbow straight and the wrist straight, but you could take a little mudra in your fingers. Mudra is a hand shape. Maybe bring your thumbs to your pointer fingers. Inhale here. Exhale, hands. Try to get that opposite grip. Press away, gunslinger. Open up your thoracic spine here. The shoulder blades are moving laterally or they're protracting. And then when you separate the hands and find chest expansion, you're bringing your shoulder blades together like you're squeezing a pencil between the middle of your back. That's retraction of the shoulder blades. Finding your hand mudra. And then bring your hands to prayer. Hinge your hips. And hands go down inside. Bring your hips back. Come into a child's pose here. I'm going to take a quick little stretch in child's pose. You might look up for a moment to see what I'm talking about. I'm going to take my right hand and walk it off the mat, and I'm going to bring my chest more over my right leg, and then walk my left hand on top of my right hand. Good. So go ahead and bring your head back down away so you're not looking at the camera. You might notice you might lift your left hip a little bit, walk the right hand even further away, then sit the left hip back or the left sit bone, pull it toward the left heel. Maybe you notice that you're opening up the left side of the body. Breathe into that. Take the left hand off the top of the right. Walk both hands back to the middle. Walk your fingertips forward to the front of the mat, just finding some neutral, balancing it all out in the center, maybe wiggling the hips. And then we'll take that pose on the other side. So take the left hand, start walking it off the mat to the side. You can bring your trunk over in line with your left leg. Take the right hand, walk it over, place the right hand on top of the left hand. You can peel up that sit bone and then sit the right hip sit bone back towards the right heel. Notice when you breathe and you inhale and fill up, that might be when you feel the best part of the stretch. Take your right hand off the top of your left, walk yourself back to center, press the fingertips into the ground, press the tops of your toes in the ground, draw your belly or your belly button to your spine and pull yourself up into your tabletop shape. Take a little bit of cat-cow here. We're going to go to that low lunge again. We're going to work the thoracic spine in a twisty way. So our right hand is going to step next to our right foot, but we're going to stay down this time. If you would like blocks now, you want to bring the floor up to you, so your books or your soup cans, you can do that. You can bring them into your practice. Otherwise, place your left hand under your nose and then pull your right hand up into your chest. And as you do that, start to feel rotation in your rib cage. So pause right here with me. Take the back foot, press it in, turn on the back glute. That activation of the back glute is going to help you rotate more. Good. Now, I just want you to rotate your rib cage more to the inner thigh. So that top rib, the right rib, is rotating up to the ceiling. Breathe there. Inhale. Exhale. Put your right hand back down. Take that move on the other side. Pull the left hand into the chest. The left elbow reaches up on an inhale. It's about rotating through the thoracic spine, through the rib cage. And exhale, place your left hand back down. Once again, right hand pulls up like you're pulling the string of a bow. Feel your chest rotate open as you peel the bow. Maybe you can reach the arm if the shoulder feels safe here. It's more about the rib cage rotating. Breathe in. Exhale, right hand goes down. Plant it right under your nose. Take the left arm, start to pull open the bow. Squeeze both glutes together. Pause before you take your shoulder up. Try to draw your sits bones more together here. That'll stabilize the hips. Maybe allow you to twist a little bit deeper. It's not necessary to straighten out this arm. So if you have a yucky shoulder, it might not feel good. Exhale, bring the left arm back down. One more time on your own. Rotating to the right. Lengthening through the arm if that's good for your body, but it's not necessary. Moving with the breath, exhaling down, inhaling, rotating to the left. And exhaling down. When you're ready, I'll wait for you. Now, take this right leg, walk it to the middle a little bit. You can grab blocks. I encourage you to do that if you have props. If not, it's okay. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to take that front leg. We're going to walk it forward a little bit more. Curl the back toe, walk that knee back a little bit more. And then using your blocks, we're going to straighten out the front legs. I don't know if you can see that. The blocks just help you keep your balance. My toe is up, and I'm getting a stretch in my hamstring. So we're just prepping our hamstring for our pyramid pose. And then you're going to put the flesh of the toes down, walk the blocks forward, lift your heart, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze that back glute, turn it on, lengthen through the spine. Don't just dump into your joint here. And then again, walk your hips back, straighten out your hamstring on your front leg. Breathing every time, and then walking forward, organizing, maybe getting that right foot back on the outside again, taking the right foot back. Good, little cat and cow here. Let's take the left foot forward and take that series on the other side so you know where we're going. Again, hand right here on the block to bring the ground closer for your rotations, that's fine, okay? We'll start with our right hand down. We're gonna turn toward the forward knee first. Plant the right hand down, start to rotate the chest. Pull the left hand into the chest, maybe the elbow reaches up. Rotate the left ribs up to the ceiling and the bottom right ribs towards the inner thigh. Inhale here. Exhale, left hand goes down. Rotate. Stay long from the crown of, to the coccyx, and then rotate on the other side. On this side, when we go away from the forward leg, can be a little gunky in the arm. So just maybe bring the elbow up. Inhale here. Exhale, plant the hand. Find your hip activation. Draw both glutes on, turn them both on, squeeze the sits bones together. Maybe you can get deeper into your rotation. Maybe the bottom arm, you can pack your shoulder. Exhale down. Inhale, twist. So we're moving through the thoracic spine. I like to think about this as like the seatbelt move. Oftentimes we hurt ourselves, take it the other direction, when we're doing like daily activities, like getting the golf clubs out of the back of the trunk, or the common injury, I think, is twisting to put on our seatbelt, right? So we're just doing functional movement to make sure we can put on our seatbelt without hurting ourselves. Last time, finishing up here, I didn't talk you through it so much here because you can do this on your own. You guys have got this. So finishing up, come to middle, start to find your blocks. If you don't have your blocks, it's okay. You're gonna walk your foot to the center. This time you're framing your foot rather than having the foot on the outside. You're framing it. You can walk the front foot forward or curl the toes and walk the back knee backwards. Take your hips, send them back. We're just stretching out the hamstring. So I can do this on my fingertips. I don't have to have my blocks here. That allows me to keep my spine flatter. So notice if you're really rounded here, see if you can use this space in the elbows and lengthen through the spine. Get your back flat, good. And then fingertips go down. You can go into a lunge here. So again, lifting your heart, lengthening the spine, turning on the back glute. Breathe in, exhale, send the hips back, stretching out this front leg, this front hamstring. So notice I'm drawing my toes up to my shin. If you want more activation, press this heel into the ground and then pull it into you. Notice how that turns on the hamstring more. It's pretty intense, yeah. And then walk it back out. You can curl your back toes, get your shape a little bit closer. Take your left hand to the outside of your foot and we're gonna exit out. Now do this for me. This is our tabletop. Notice my hips are over my knees. Take your hands and walk them about one hand forward. So now my hands are out in front. I'm going to shift my hips. So now they're in front of my knees. Take those eyes of the elbows, rotate them forward, shoulders down the back. And then my tailbone, I just want to tuck it a little bit. I'm beginning to find my hollow body shape. So little yoga push up here. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to lower our rib cage right to our triceps and hold. Put the shoulders away from the ears, tuck the tail, draw the belly in. Inhale, exhale, push up, send back to child's pose. Good. If you want to keep doing that with me, let's come back up into our modified plank position. Our hips are in front. Corkscrew and back the shoulders. Lower down just so the ribs and the triceps are interacting. So notice my shoulders aren't lower than my elbows. Pack the shoulders here, hold. And then press yourself up and back. One more time. Pull yourself forward, come into your modified lunge. Lower and hold. And then lower all the way down to your belly. So from here, I don't know how you guys are looking at the screen. So what I want you to do is look at the screen real quick to make sure I keep your neck safe. So try to look at the screen in a way that keeps your neck safe. You're not cranking up to look at it. We're going to do Cobra Pose. So I'll just show you really quickly. Your hand's going to be down under your shoulders next to your ribs. Notice my elbows are back and they're going to come in. My eye gaze is down, so the back of my neck is long. I'm going to bring my shoulders up into my ears and into pack. And when I put them into pack, notice how my chest lifts. If I take my shoulders forward, my chest goes down. All right, so that's what it's going to look like. So now come down on the floor, take your eye gaze down to the floor and listen to these cues before you start to move. Let the forehead rest on the ground. Go down into your glutes, try to turn them on. Really squeeze and turn them on. And then find your belly button, start to pull it away from the mat, pull it towards the spine. Now, even if the flesh doesn't come off the mat, you're still activating. From your glutes and your belly button, lift your forehead up off the mat, but keep the eye gaze down, and then lift the shoulders up in the ears, put them into pack, pull the shoulders up. Keep squeezing glutes, keep squeezing belly button. See if you can take your hands up off the floor and hover. Inhale in, exhale, hands go down, forehead goes down. Let's try that again. Turn on the glutes, maybe find external rotation in the hips if that makes sense. Turn on the glutes, pull the belly button in, nice and strong. Let the forehead lift up, shoulders come back into pack, the chest peels up. Pausing here, continuing to use the muscles in the glutes and the belly to hold you up. Lift the hands, float. Can you inhale here? Exhale, forehead goes down. Now push yourself up into your knees and come back into tabletop. Good work, yogis. All right, we're gonna hover here, guys. We're gonna keep moving today. Curl your toes under, lift the knees and hover off the ground, 1 inch. You can still work all of these activations. Pack the shoulders, rotate the eyes and elbows forward, pull your belly button away from the ground like there's a pitchfork under there, knit your ribs together. Now, if you have a heart condition and your head can't go below your heart, this is gonna be your downward dog for today. Otherwise, everybody come down to your knees, take a rest. Then one more time, hover and lift the knees. For those who can take their head below their heart, let's lift the hips up into the air and find our downward facing dog. Spread your fingers wide. Now notice, I'm going to coach you through this downward dog. So if you need to come down to your knees for a moment and take a rest and go back up into it, that's fine. First of all, trust me, bend your knees, lift your heels a little bit. You're pressing your chest or your belly button back to your thighs. So maybe what you can do here is if your biceps are next to your ears, just look over at your bicep, give it a kiss, okay? So you want to kiss your biceps in downward dog. All right, draw your shoulders up into your ears and then let your shoulders slide down your back. Let your head go and hang heavy. One more time, shoulders into the ears, shoulders down the back. Now, go ahead and lower your knees, take a rest here. So for some, just coming out of downward dog generally might make you a little dizzy because your head was below your heart. So if you want to stay in your downward dog right now, you want to work it and blow it up, that's fine. Otherwise, I just want to show you how to exit and deal with those dizzies. We're going to work downward dog one more time. So let's press up and hover the knees and then lift the hips. Remember, belly button back towards the thighs, kiss your biceps. Now, flare open your armpits. I know that sounds weird, but open them up like you're showing them off to the people on the right and left of you. Now, hide your armpits from them. So that's the energetic feeling of external rotation in the shoulders, and then slide the shoulders down the back, let the head hang heavy. Lift your heels and tiptoe, walk your feet to your hands, and come to your forward fold. Let everything relax in your forward fold. Let your chest rest on your thighs if that's possible. Let your head hang heavy. Now, for half lift, it's about the back, it's not about the legs. So if your legs are bent, that's fine. Take your hands, press them into your shins, and lengthen your spine. Use the press of the hands into the shins to allow the crown of the head to reach forward, the back to flatten out. You'll notice your shoulder blades coming together a little bit. Inhale here, half lift. If you feel dizzy, stay here. Otherwise, exhale, fold. Let your spine round again. Put your weight in your heels. Put your mind in your heels and your glutes. Find that connection. Press through the heels, start to rise up. Circle sweep the arms. Rise up, come to standing. If you feel dizzy, go right back down to the mat. Don't force yourself to stand. Otherwise, meet with arms overhead. Exhale, hands come down to the sides. Now, I want you to stay and work on your mountain pose. Feet are hips distance apart. Slight bend in the knees. The external rotation in the hip that we worked together in the other classes. Maybe you're pulling the ground together. Feel all the muscles light up there. Or you're tearing the ground apart, whatever. Yeah, good. Now, reach your arms up overhead and take a bind. Yeah, you can see it here. So I'm going to take my right hand. I'm going to pull my right shoulder up into my ear. And that's going to create this nice stretch. So pull it up and over. And then I can even take a side bend here. Good. Keep squeezing the glutes and keep drawing your belly button into your navel. And then come back to center and switch. Take this hand, grab this elbow, pull it up into the ear, up and over. Big side body stretch. And come back to center. I'm going to go to my knees, but I want you to stay in mountain pose. Stay right where you are. This time, if your shoulders feel healthy, you can. If your shoulders didn't like this, just stay right here with me. Okay. If your shoulders feel healthy, grab your wrist, pull it up and over to the side. Big, nice stretch. And breathe into that rib that you're exposing. Back up to center. Pull the opposite wrist up and over. Sorry you can't see it, but just grabbing onto the wrist there. And back up to center. Separate your hands, cactus your arms. So bringing the elbows down, palms are forward, spread your fingers, and then squeeze the glutes and let the hips just drift forward. The knees can lock out and lengthen and lift through your heart and your chest and the crown of your head. There's your back bend. Exhale, come to standing. Okay, guys, we're going to work on our hip hinge today because it's important for our pyramid pose. So if you've been with me in other classes, you'll know that the hip hinge is about pitching your trunk forward while maintaining a flat back. So take your fingertips, stick them right into your hips. You're in mountain pose right now, and you're just going to push your hips back behind your heels. Notice when I push the hips back behind the heels, my spine is still neutral. So let's come back up to standing, neutral spine. Push your hips back behind your heels. Your spine is neutral. Now you can pitch your trunk forward and maintain a neutral spine. So I'm not flexing, I'm not rounding in my spine. Take your eye gaze down to the floor. Maybe feel how that feels in the hamstrings. To exit out, push the heels in the floor, squeeze the glutes, and send yourself back up. So that's a hip hinge, as opposed to, if you just look for a second, that's a rounding of the spine, right? So see how that's different? So when you're going into your forward fold, you first want to hip hinge, which takes your pelvis into that deep anterior tilt. Then you can round in the spine more, okay? So if you did that forward fold with me, great. If not, let's get into the whole point of what we're doing. So to exit out, I want to flatten through the back. Okay. So pyramid pose, that's what we're doing. Find your blocks or your props if you have them. If you don't have them, that's fine. And we're going to come to standing at the top of the mat. Take your right foot and bring it back like you would for a warrior, but not as far, okay? So it's a much shallower step back. Do bring the heel down like a warrior foot. Pausing for a moment, feeling your big toe mound, piggy toe mound, and heel of the back foot. Place your blocks in opposite hands or your books or whatever, and then hinge at the hips. And start to hinge over with a flat back. And then pause when you feel a lot of sensation in the hamstrings. Now, if you can reach the floor and place your blocks there, that's fine. Maybe put your fingertips on your blocks. So just hang out here with me in the beginning of this pyramid pose. Now, if your left leg is forward, can you pull that hip back in space a little bit? So the hip crease, just pull it back in space. Allow the right hip crease to come forward a little bit. Notice how that changes the sensation of the pose. You're breathing, you're letting the tissues get ready to the shape. Now you can start to round through the spine a little bit more. So let the head become heavy. Let the spine round. If you have blocks and props, you can use them to support so you don't have so much weight in that front hamstring. Again, pull the left hip crease back. Let the right hip crease drift forward. I forgot to say, this front leg, you don't want to lock it out. Slight micro bend, not a deep bend like a warrior, just a slight micro bend. And breathe into the shape, letting the head get as heavy as you want, shaking the head yes and no. Now let's exit out. Listen to how you want to exit. Lift your eye gaze, look out in front of your mat, start to flatten out your back. Slightly put a bend or put a little bit more of a bend in your front knee. Put your weight in your heels, find your glutes, and bring yourself back up to standing. All right, so big hamstring stretch, pyramid pose. Take your back foot, step it forward. Bend down and pick up your blocks. If you found that easy, taking the blocks and putting them on the ground in the right spot. Take your left foot back, heel is down, so you have that external rotation in the back hip. This front leg is straight, so unlike a warrior pose, the front leg is straight, but it's not locked out, okay? So there's a slight micro bend. Orient your hips and shoulders towards the toes, the front of the room, and then start to find your hip hinge. So the back of your neck is long, no wrinkles in the front of your back, or the front or the back of your neck. As you hinge forward, the eye gaze comes down to the floor. Then maybe bring in or invite in the blocks. Just pause and allow the tissues to sort of melt into, allow the body to respond to this pose. Keep breathing here. Notice if you're locking out in that front knee. Can you invite in a slight micro bend to the front knee? And then find the right hip crease. Pull it back in space as the left hip crease pulls forward in space. You might notice that tugs on the hamstring a little bit more. Keep breathing in, and then from here, you can begin to round in your back. Allow your head to get heavier. Allow your spine to round, and get deeper into the pose. Noticing if you're locking out that front knee. Remember, you're finding that micro bend, pulling the right hip back in space. The left foot, the left heel is down on the ground. Big, nice, juicy hamstring pose here. Make sure you're breathing into the pose. That's why we practice breathing into the front in the beginning of the class. Every pose we're in, breath is out. We don't want to have a fear reactive response to the pose. To exit out, lift your eye gaze and start to find your flat back. Find a little bit of a deeper bend in that front knee. Push in the front heel, feel the front glute, or the right glute turn on, and then rise yourself. Rise up to standing. Take your back foot and bring it up to meet your front foot. So that's our pyramid shapes. Let's make our way back down to the mat. Circle sweep your arms up, reach overhead, bring your hands to prayer, and then find a hip hinge. So that hip hinge is how you move into your forward fold. Drape your hands or your chest over, place your hands on the mat, and then step back. If you want to find a plank with me, go ahead and find a plank. Otherwise, you can come into a modified plank and put your knees down. You want to work this plank with me. You want to find shoulder pack, turn on the lats, tuck the tail a little bit to start to create a hollow body. Hug the kneecaps or pull the kneecaps up the front of your thighs to engage the quads. And then maybe rotate to your piggy toes and press your feet away to turn on the glutes. So notice if you get into your piggy toes and press, you might turn your glutes on. Find some strength in the pose. Knees come down anytime you want. Otherwise, knees come down here. Press back, take a child's pose. One breath in child's pose. And then pull yourself up to a seat and make your way onto your seat. So we'll go down to the floor and we'll do some supine poses and we'll finish up in Shavasana. So before we roll down to the floor, let's grab onto our knees, lift our heart, flatten out our back, get nice and long through the spine. One more time, extension. And then start to round through the back. So roll your sacrum down on the floor, find that hollow body, that cat shape, and maybe roll yourself down into the floor. Setting yourself up for bridge pose, knees are bent, feet are flat on the ground, arms down to the sides. Look up at the ceiling, don't look at your screen. Pressing your feet into the floor, lift the hips up into the air. And then notice where you feel sensation. Maybe the quads get a stretch, maybe the hip flexors or the front of the hips get a stretch. Notice if you engage your glutes, maybe you can lift a little bit higher. And then notice if you can feel your heart or your chest opening up, space between the front of each shoulder. You can start to tuck your shoulder blades toward one another under your back. You notice your arms will move in closer together and your chest will expand and round more. Keep squeezing glutes, lifting, opening up the front line of the body. Breathe in and notice your belly expanding right in front of your eye gaze as you breathe in. Release your hands if you took a bind underneath and just start to walk the shoulder blades away from one another. Come up into your toes, lift your heels, and then whatever vertebra is in the floor right now, notice what vertebra is in the floor. Try to lower the next one down, then the next one, then the next one, articulating your spine back into the floor, one vertebra at a time, until you get to your tail or your sacrum. And when you do, your heels can come down to the floor. All right, let's get that outer hip stretched, Paulette. Take our right leg, we're gonna bring it over the top of our left leg. So this is reclined pigeon pose. So draw your right toes back to your shin here. And then lift your left leg up off the ground and take the whole unit of both legs and pull it into your chest. Now, as you're doing it, the knee that's over across the top, maybe you might feel a stretch in that hip. You can intensify this stretch if you put one hand through the legs and bind with the other hand on the hamstring of the left leg and pull that in a little bit tighter. Make sure you can still breathe. And then take your left foot, put it back down on the floor. Right foot comes off. We'll switch it up. Left foot comes across. Dorsiflex the toes, pull them back to the shin. Good. So for some, maybe this is enough of a stretch. For others, lift your right foot off the floor, bringing the whole unit of both legs toward your trunk. Noticing sensation in the left hip. Stopping when you get enough sensation in the left hip. If you desire a little bit more, bind behind the right hamstring, pull that into the trunk, maybe just a little bit more. Find your breath in this pose. Always you want to be able to breathe in your poses. You want to be able to breathe and you want to remember to breathe. Like the breath is like a green light to the brain. It's like the breath and the brain are going, okay, this pose is safe. I can breathe. Brain, release, let go, let me be in this pose. It's all good, it's safe. Take your right foot, put it back down on the ground. Let the bottoms of the feet find each other and the knees fall open for your reclined butterfly pose. And you can stay here for your Shavasana with the knees open like this, or if you want to bring your knees back up together and straighten your legs out on the mat, you can do that. If you want to keep your knees bent for Shavasana, walk your feet wide and let the knees come together, you can do that. And if you want to roll onto your side in Shavasana B, you can do that. So find whatever shape feels great to you, resonates with you, and I'd like to remain here in silence with you for a little bit. I'm going to talk you into a little bit more relaxation before we go quiet. So closing your eyes. Letting go of awareness of the breath. Just let the breath come in and out, even if it's shallow. No need for deep breathing here. Taking a body scan from head to toe, try to release any areas where you're unnecessarily holding tension. Start with your toes, your feet, and your ankles. Let your legs roll out and your feet fall heavy to the sides. Moving up the legs, relax the kneecaps, the tops of the thighs, front of the hips. Relax the glutes. I cue those a lot. They're important, but let them go here and now. Relaxing the belly and the need to pull the belly button to the spine. Allow that to soften. Let go of the fingers and the wrists and the forearms. Soften in the shoulders. Notice any unnecessary holding or tension in your spine. Soften your jaw, a place where we commonly hold tension. Take the tongue away from the roof of your mouth, pull it away from your teeth. Open up your lips, just slightly. Let that eyeballs get just a little heavier in the sockets. Soften any wrinkles on your forehead. We'll stay together here in silence for just 30 seconds or so, and I'll bring you back out with my voice. Allow your transition into the rest of your day. Start with your breath, making your inhale have more intention and your exhale have more intention. Start to wiggle fingers and wrists, toes and ankles, taking small circular movements from the extremities, and then working your way more to the middle of the body. So the elbows, maybe your knees want to start moving, shoulders, hips. If you want to, you can bring your knees in your chest. Give yourself a big hug. That hug is from me, thanking you for joining me for the last 6 weeks. It's been a blast being with you guys. Let's roll over onto one side. Shavasana B, I want you to pause right here. I just want you to think, I meant to give you this prompt before class, but just think of one thing that maybe you learned today or something new that you learned about yourself or about your yoga practice in the last 6 weeks. Seal it with a breath. Press yourself up to seated. And then if you'd like to finish with me in a seated posture, feel free to do so. Take whatever seat feels good in your body, but whatever seat that is, allow the sits bones to connect down to the earth. Allow the spine to find its length and the crown of the head to reach up to the sky. Bringing your hands into this mudra, this hand shape. It's Anjali Mudra. We recognize it as a prayer shape. It's a pleasure and an honor to share this practice with you over these weeks. Thank you so much for joining me. Wishing you the best in your journey of wellness. Namaste.